Good morning. It is December 20th, the Monday, the last Monday before Christmas. I am Regina Lay sitting in for Cito Beltran. You're watching us via Cignal TV 8 and 250, One News PH Facebook and YouTube, or via the Signal Play app. You can also connect with us via SMS. That's 0968 704 7736. All right. Meanwhile, it's now time to take a look at the front page of the Philippine Star. The death toll from Typhoon Odette has climbed to 89. Authorities believe that the reported death count will rise as disaster agencies further assess the impact of the typhoon in Visayas and Mindanao. Over 300,000 people are still displaced and reeling from the aftermath of Super Typhoon Odette. Meanwhile, the health department said that LGUs affected by Typhoon Odette may continue their vaccination activities in evacuation centers. Still, DOH also said LGUs may defer inoculations and focus instead on relief operations. And finally, a recent study shows the Omicron variant's risk of reinfection is over 5 times higher than the Delta variant. However, Omicron seems milder compared to the current dominant variant. Some parts of Europe are experiencing a surge due to the spread of this latest variant. All right, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion is pushing for a shorter interval between the second dose of the vaccine and booster shots, taking it down from 6 months to 4 months. Concepcion said that the government needs to speed up vaccinations due to the threat of the Omicron variant. Welcome back to Agenda, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion. Good morning. Thanks for joining us
Good
today.
morning.
Right, let's get into it. So you're pushing for a shorter interval for booster shots. With this Omicron variant, it feels kind of like bad deja vu in a way, doesn't it? Just as we were reopening the economy, here it comes, and there's still so much we don't know about it. How are you assessing this development? Do you feel like we need to reassess protocols? We may have lost Joey Con for a bit. I apologize. Um, I believe the line dropped for Joey Con, so I do apologize for that. He is trying his best to log back in as fast as he can. So in the meantime, let me just recap what we were talking about. Uh, Joey Con is pushing for a shorter interval for the vaccine shots between the last dose, the second dose, and the booster shots. Currently, protocol says you can only get a booster shot 6 months after your second dose and not any days sooner. But he thinks that given this new variant, there's room for making that into a 4-month period. And so I believe we have Joey Concepcion back. Let's try him again. Joey, do we have you on the line? All right, we're gonna keep trying that. We're gonna keep trying that line with Joey. Apologies for the tech difficulties. Um, and again, coming back to one of our top stories, a recent study showing that Omicron variant is over 5 times higher in terms of reinfection risk compared to the Delta variant. However, early data is showing that Omicron variant seems to be milder than the current dominant variant. So there's that sliver of hope there. In the US, they have that. That's what also the early data is showing them, as shared by Dr. Anthony Fauci. But the bad news is that Europe is in the grips of a latest surge. I believe the fifth wave now, with Netherlands going on lockdown over the weekend. And you also have the UK registering its record case numbers per day. At one point, it hit over 100,000 cases a day. Of course, UK is one of the countries that have brought down their COVID-19 restrictions. People are going around without a mask. Restaurants, bars, pubs, everything is open, but unfortunately, they are struggling again in the face of this new threat of Omicron. And then also one of their other top stories, Typhoon Odette, of course, the death toll, official death toll, I should say, has climbed to 89. There were reports from the AFP over the weekend that it may have gone as high as 142, but we will verify that throughout the day. Authorities believe that of course, the death count is going to continue rising. There's still a lot of clearing operations on the ground. People need to reassess the damage, and over 300,000 people remain displaced. All right, I'm getting word that we may have Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion, back on the line. Joey, do we have you or not? Apologies, guys. We promise we do have him. Why don't we at this point go on a very short break? We're going to try to fix our tech difficulties in the background, but just a quick word from our sponsors first. All right, welcome back to Agenda. I'm Regina Lay, sitting in for Cito Beltran. As we were saying before we went to break, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion, is pushing for a shorter interval for the booster vaccines, taking it down from 6 months to 4 months. And I believe we finally have him on the line. Joey, are you there? Maybe not. I believe we there. Hi, Joey. Or I believe we lost him again. Let's just give it a few seconds, guys. It'll be all right. As a background, Concepcion is also, of course, the founder of Go Negosyo, and he has said that the country has adequate stock of vaccines at this point, and that they should be rolled out immediately to inoculate the unvaccinated and as well to give out booster shots. Go Negosyo's partner is actually Okta Research, and Okta also recommends shortening the interval between the last dose and the booster shots to 4 months because the efficacy of vaccines decreases at around the 5 month mark. Last month, at least 26 groups from the private sector urged the national government to allow their procured vaccines to be used as booster shots. We were getting reports at around that time that a lot of the vaccines that have been shipped in are um, are just in storage, waiting to be rolled out, waiting to be used. And also, Guido David from Okta Research said the government should watch out for more possible cases of the Omicron variant, given the government last month shortened the required quarantine days for returning overseas Filipinos from yellow list countries. They took it down from 5 days to 3 days with swab test on the third day. David said, although I believe they've also uh, reinstated the 5 day quarantine rule for yellow list countries in light of this new threat. David said the government must review its travel protocols and the quarantine status, which was lowered to alert level 2 nationwide until the end of the year. But he advised authorities not to raise the alert level and scare the public unnecessarily. Meanwhile, we did also know that DOH Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said pandemic response will not change after the detection of Omicron variant, but the government will surely intensify border controls. Let's talk about reassessing protocols at this point. Let's try Joey Concepcion once again. Joey, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, fantastic. We finally have you on the
Finally.
line. Thank you. What a Monday morning for you. Let's get right into it, Joey. You're pushing for shorter intervals for the booster shots. This Omicron variant, how are you viewing it? I mean, it feels kind of like bad deja vu, doesn't it? Just as we were reopening the economy.
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. I think the good part is that the sacrifice of locking down on August 8th of this year by the private sector to basically our initiative really paved the way for a much lower number of infections, especially in the fourth quarter. So that's the great news. We are hitting the lowest level of infections ever since the start of this Delta and all the other variants. So that is a big plus to us, no? Unlike other countries who have very high cases of Delta and now are faced with Omicron. The situation really of Omicron is definitely it's much more contagious than Delta. As to the level of uh, severity, I guess I would put it more or less equal, no, to Delta. Let's take the conservative side. There are talks that it is milder. We hope it's milder, but I think from all the reports that are coming out, we have to get more data. So, but what do we need to do, no? Now that we've achieved very low number of cases, below 300 cases yesterday in the entire Philippines. So the Philippines definitely is the safest country to be in. So the strategy that we're employing really now is that we have to continue to vax the max. Now, this is the program that Gonegosyo has launched with the national government. And our goal has to be now 90%. No? NCR has achieved 100% fully vaccinated. And we have time. We have time because our cases are low. The next thing that we have to do is to get the booster shots, no, uh, ready, especially for those who took Sinovac much earlier this year. Now, why are we pushing for 3 to 4 months to give the booster shots from the second dose, no, the last dose? I think it's very important, as we've seen from all over the world. Many countries are moving towards this direction. The booster shots increases the level of efficacy. You know? I mean, it doesn't protect us from being infected, but it definitely will protect us from severe infection and death. No, so That is why we have to give the shorten the duration between the second dose to the booster shots. Normally, it was targeted at 6 months, no, but most countries are looking at 3 to 4 months right now.
Right. Uh, Joey, a couple months ago, couple weeks ago, or rather, I should say, Secretary Galvez also mentioned that yes, there's enough supply at this point, but the problem has become a logistical one. It's hard to get the vaccines to the provinces, especially to the remote areas. How are we helping out on that front?
Well, there are two areas. I think the booster shots should focus basically on the areas that have completed the second dose. Those in the Visayas and Mindanao areas and the balance of Luzon, many of them have not yet fully completed their vaccination. And that's why the vaccination percentage in the rest of the areas are anywhere between 30 to 40%. So it's still a long way to go, no, to complete that. Hopefully, we are able to fully inoculate all our people, or at least close to 90% by the third quarter. No? So booster shots will be given to basically in NCR, no, where the high vaccination rate has been achieved, and the other areas as well. There are some areas in the provincial areas that have are at about 60 to 70%. So the that is correct. Sec Galvez is right. Logistics issues are a problem, especially with Pfizer and Moderna, which requires a lower temperature level compared to AstraZeneca. But the private sector, we have our doses arriving. The completion of AstraZeneca doses, vaccines will be done on December 29th. So AstraZeneca would have completed all the vaccine deliveries by December 29th. So we have the supply to complete for those who have not completed the second dose, and we're ready to implement the booster shot. So not all areas uh, will need the booster shots yet because they have not completed the second dose.
Right. So it's going to be a targeted approach. Joey, do you feel like we, or rather the IATF, should still target lowering the alert level to 1 in NCR by January, which was the original target? But in light of this Omicron variant, do you feel that that should be reassessed or that should stay?
Well, I've shared this that especially this quarter, everybody has is very happy. Businesses back, the bounce back, I would say, from pre-pandemic levels is about 80%. So many restaurants are hitting 80% of their pre-pandemic sales, which is excellent, giving them good cash flow so that they can be able to pay the 13-month pay, which is good news for our employees. No? And I think the momentum in NCR and some parts of Luzon is there. No, businesses are coming back, and that's what we want to see. But so the challenge really is this: now with Omicron, in our midst, and what we see in UK right now, the jump in cases is phenomenal. No? Luckily, as I was saying earlier, we are starting at a very very low base, especially in NCR. So if Omicron does come in the first quarter, I expect it to start. We may feel it sometime February, March. We should use all of this time to really prepare. And Vax to the Max is one program that we're pushing hard. Booster shots, hopefully. And I was talking to Dr. Solante of the Vaccine Expert Panel. They're pushing for 3 to 4 months. They're recommending that. So that should be approved in the next 15 to 30 days. And for those that are ready and fully taken their second dose, if they've hit 3 or 4 months, if that's approved by FDA and the vaccine expert panel, then that will be rolled out. So that fortifies our protection. In other words, we have good protection right now. We will increase that further protection. So our bubble, our vacuna bubble will be much strengthened, definitely with the booster shot. So we must use this time to prepare. And of course, uh, let's not be complacent. So alert level 1 would be great, but I think alert level 2 is already good enough for many of these businesses. And when we come to the first quarter next year, of course, businesses will slow down. No? Everybody would have spent all their Christmas money, and mobility will be much less compared to the mobility that we're seeing right now as everybody's out, which is the right time, no, to go out because cases are really low. And but we should continue with the wearing of our face mask. What has happened to other countries when they achieved victory over Delta, they started to remove the mask. Now in the Philippines, we are achieving victory over Delta, let's not remove that mask. No, we should continue to wear the mask because that will protect us and keep us. No, let's make mask part of our lives for the next many months or years until these variants start to just disappear.
That's a great point. A lot of people I know, even though they're fully vaccinated, they still act like they're unvaccinated, which is a good thing. Joey, at the last Go Negosyo town hall, you were also making a case for a vaccine mandate. Imposing the idea is to impose a rule that forces everyone to get vaccinated. Do you still feel the same way?
Well, right now, the IATF has approved that all on site workers who are unvaccinated will have to take a PCR test every 2 weeks, which the amount of that is about 60 to 70,000 pesos an employee will have to pay if he is not vaccinated. So that is enforced. We invited Secretary Bello in the town hall. We clarified everything. And many companies are not going to implement it yet this Christmas because they want everybody to enjoy Christmas. But that will start being fully implemented this coming year. Now, in NCR, with the groups that who bought AstraZeneca and Moderna, the vaccine acceptance was as high as 90 to 100%. No? So there will be some employees who will be penalized with this, and they will have to take the PCR test every 2 weeks. No? And so that will cost them. And I'm sure when they see how much is being charged to their salary, then they will take the vaccine because I mean, there's no cost to the vaccine; it's free. You're not going to spend 17,000 a month on your salary. No? They can't afford that.
Right. So there will be some sort of penalties for them, sanctions. Joey, I
It's big.
wanted to, yeah, I wanted to shift to two other topics before I let you go. The first one being the big news of the day, Super Typhoon Odette, which is of course ravaged a number of places: Cebu, Bohol, Leyte, Siargao, Negros Occidental. I wanted to know what the business sector is doing to assist these regions affected by the super typhoon.
Well, of course, many of the business community, I mean, is very supportive. It's sad that it happens to be in the Christmas season, a week before Christmas, actually. Um, and typhoons normally that come in this time of the year is one that causes a lot of damage, and and unfortunately, it just hit us at this point in time with the pandemic. So you can imagine people suffering from economic issues right now because of the pandemic, the lockdowns, and now faced with this huge crisis. I mean, it's really quite a challenging situation, and the private sector, as usual, will always continue to do whatever we can to support our Filipino brothers and sisters on their current problems right now that they're facing at this point in, especially that it's Christmas.
Right. We're actually also getting some reports of looting on the ground. Do you have any suggestions for how people who want to donate, what's the fastest, most reliable way for them to get aid and relief goods to affected barangays?
Well, right now the transportation these areas are quite challenging. There's a lot of rescue ongoing. People are trying to look for transportation, so we will get better clarity on this in the coming days. And once that's there, I'm sure all the efforts from the different groups, business organizations will come out with all their support. We've started already to ship some of our reliefs to these areas, but I think it will increase in the coming days as transportation will be more accessible and be that will be able to reach these areas at that point in time.
Right. All right. We look forward to seeing Go Negocios initiatives around this, which I know you guys are always on the forefront. And the second topic that I wanted to discuss is the Senate Bill 2094, which allows full foreign ownership in certain industries, including airlines and telcos and transportation. I wanted to know how the local businesses are viewing this because it's a bit of it's got pros and cons, right? So in the end it may possibly be good for consumers, but what are the businesses feeling? Are they wary, are they scared, are they excited, what's going on?
I think full foreign ownership. Yeah, I mean, I think to my point of view, it's welcome news. And normally, many of these foreign investors will always look for a partner in the Philippines, no, because the local partner always has, uh, the better feel, no, and of course there will be some who would like to go on their own, but what's important really is to bring more investments in the country, no, at this point in time, especially with what happened to the Philippines in this pandemic. We really have to stimulate the economy, uh, first by opening up, which is happening right now, and hopefully it continues all the way, and attracting foreign investment in critical sectors like, I mean, airlines. Of course, you can see Philippine Airlines being quite challenged, and of course, they would definitely welcome. And I think Philippine Airlines will hopefully want to see a partner with them. No, I mean, considering that the enormous challenges that they face in the telco sector. I guess it will enhance, more investments if there more investors would like to get into that space despite the number of people already in it. Um, the consumers definitely will always benefit. And I think it's good for the country. It's good for the consumers as well, no, to see that investments start pouring in, especially in times like this. So we need to really re-stimulate the economy. The government is going to face a very challenging situation because funding the health situation is costing us trillions, no, and had it not been for the pandemic today, we could use that money in more capital expenditures, which in the build project of the president, and even much more is needed, no, in roads, bridges, airports, all of that, no. But of course, the pandemic has diverted much of the funding, no, to all of these vaccines and other health initiatives that will allow us to continue to open the economy. So, uh, yes, we need the help. Foreign investors uh, will greatly help us re-stimulate the economy.
So you feel like, on the whole, it does benefit the economy in general. And actually, over the weekend, we did also get word that the New York Bank, rather, sorry, the New York court has approved the bankruptcy filing of Philippine Airlines. So that's one bit of good news for them too. Do you know if there's been interest from foreign investors? I mean, I know you have a lot of connections and you talk to your foreign counterparts a lot. Has there been anyone who's expressed interest about coming into these previously restricted sectors?
I think that's good news for those foreign investors who believe in the Philippines that has a great potential, and I'm sure, especially in areas that uh, is a growing sector, foreign investors will always look at that opportunity. But let's put it this way: many foreign investors always look for a good partner on the ground, not to be able to help, make the even in our own company, our ice cream venture, we brought in Unilever. No, they basically own 50 plus 1 share. No, and it's a perfect synergy. We've grown the business much more. We've been able to drop our ice cream prices to much more affordable levels. The technology that they brought in complements what the local technology we have. So these joint ventures, whether they take a majority stake or take it 100%, is always a welcome news. The consumers definitely will benefit from all the innovations that are brought about by the foreign investors. So I'm there will be some that will want to see 100%. I'm told IKEA owns 100% of the store that was established here, but at least we now see a foreign brand here. No? So it brings greater, when somebody invests in our company, especially a foreigner, like in our publicly listed company, you bring more confidence, no, to the company. People want to invest more in your company. In the same manner, Philippines Inc. is the same. If you have more foreigners investing in the Philippines, even up to 100%, people will want to gravitate to the Philippines because, oh, that's this foreign investors put 100% equity in the country of the Philippines. Great. So it builds confidence, and that's what we need now. We need to build
Is
confidence among foreign investors.
Joey, is there not a risk of cannibalizing the smaller players? I mean, we
There
know
is
that we're a
always
little
that.
bit behind.
That's right. Our micro and small entrepreneurs, the risk of they attach basically to the whole value chain of the big businesses today. I mean, sari stores, carinderias, and all of that. These are the micro businesses. To a large extent, they're quite insulated because everybody needs these stores to sell their products. No, so it's not that they will be dislocated; they'll be displaced. Many of them will benefit from product innovations. No, that foreign investors would bring, or either solely or in partnership with local players in the Philippines. No, so opening the doors helps accelerate, no, the momentum of a recovery. And that's what I'm trying to say. Yes, the big boys will be challenged. No? There are some big boys that will be challenged, but that's life. No? That's part of competition. It brings out the best in all of us. But again, I would like to point out that most foreign investors will really try to latch onto a local partner here.
So competition's going to be good for everyone in the end.
Yes, yes. I mean, that brings the best in everyone. Brings consumers the lower prices, greater innovations, and all of that. No.
Fantastic. We thank you so much for your insights today, Joey Concepcion, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship. Thank you so much and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you.
All right, at this point, I'm going to toss back to a break, but do stay with us. We have Senator Risa Hontiveros next up on agenda. Welcome back to Agenda. I'm Regina Lay, sitting in for Cito Beltran. The bill allowing foreigners to fully own and control firms in key industries in the Philippines, including telecommunications and transportation, is one step closer to becoming law after getting the approval from Senate. Some senators, however, were not in favor of this. To give her insights on the matter, joining us today is Senator Risa Ontiveros. Senator, good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me, Regina.
Right, let's get into it. Senator Risa, you were one of three. And to recap, the voting went 19-3-0, 19 in favor, three against. We're
Mhm.
talking about SB 2094, which will
That's
give,
right.
foreign companies full ownership in certain industries like telco, airlines, railways, shipping, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Tell us why you voted the way you did.
Well, Regina, I am saddened that many other critical services have been opened up to 100% foreign ownership. When our Senate President pro tempore, Sen Ralph, actually proposed an amendment to the amendment by saying that we could have limited foreign ownership to at least 70%, so as to maintain a Philippine interest in those enterprises para alam natin what's going on inside those critical facilities. And Regina, specifically also, I voted no because our telecoms industry is now being opened up to 100% foreign ownership at a time that currently unfriendly states and even rogue non-state actors have the track record already and the capacity to engage in cyber warfare, something for which we are not yet capable. We don't have the policy for cyber defense. We don't have a program yet. At yan ay inamin sa amin sa Senado, Regina, mismo ni National Security Advisor Esperon in a hearing at the Senate almost exactly a year ago. Of course, since the end of martial law in 1986, trade and investment liberalization has proceeded apace here in the Philippines, and there has been progress made on that front. However, ang ebidensya pa rin ay hindi naman tayo nagkaroon through liberalization ng anumang klaseng golden age or Philippine economic miracle. We haven't evolved to become one of the Asian tigers like Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, or even Hong Kong.
Senator, what was the reaction and bakit may pushback when you proposed, or rather when Sen Ralph proposed 70%? What was the reasoning? Was it not enough now?
Well, yun na nga yung nakapagtataka pa rin, Regina, because 70%, though it's not 100%, it is still above, way above. In fact, it's midway between the current maximum of 40% and the 100% that the bill is allowing. At ang maganda sana sa isang amyenda tulad ng 70% is it would have preserved one-third still to Philippine ownership and oversight, especially in those critical industries. But now, because we have opened up certain critical industries, including telecoms, for me, especially telecoms, to 100% foreign ownership, then we are, I'm afraid, letting our guard down in terms of threats to our national security. Of course, I was able to get one proposed amendment accepted by the good sponsor, and this is on service resiliency uh,
Mm.
and contestability. I have to say also, Regina, that I do support the objective of inviting more foreign investors into the Philippines para magpasok sila ng kapital, para mag-facilitate sila ng technology transfer sa atin. And I certainly accept the principle that Congress has the power and we exercise the power to determine kung alin sa mga industriya ay dito ay public utilities at alin ang hindi. And in this respect, Regina, I continue to commend our good sponsor and my colleagues for upholding, reserving to predominantly Philippine interests. Our common carriers, yung ating mga bus, taxi, jeepney, yung mga ating mga
Mm.
seaports at airports, right? To mainly
Mm.
Filipino ownership and to companies whose foreign ownership is limited to
Mm.
40%. I just wish na we had maintained that same standard in other critical industries, lalo na sa telecoms.
You said you were worried about rogue actors and
Yep.
non-state players. Do
Mhm.
you have anyone specifically in mind, or any country, or
Certainly,
any company,
yes.
or?
Well, certainly during the whole committee hearings and the plenary interpellations and debates, China's shadow loomed large in my mind because she's already bullying us in the West Philippine Sea. Nagkakaroon siya ng access sa iba't ibang sektor ng ating ekonomiya at lipunan. Dito na nga sa telecoms, also in our election logistics, further afield, but even more critically in terms of our energy assets in the West Philippine Sea. Tapos ngayon, parang mabibigyan pa ng cover of law yung presence nga niya sa ating telecoms industry. And we know that she has a track record and the capacity for cyber warfare, not just vis-a-vis the Philippines, pero iba pang mga bansa, which is why executives and legislatures in those other countries have stepped in to limit foreign, including Chinese influence in their own critical industry. Sayang that we didn't sustain or mount a parallel effort. And besides her and other countries, yun na nga, mga rogue non-state actors. And imagine, mismong si Sec Esperon ay nagsabing, we don't have a program yet, let alone a policy of cyber
Mm.
defense to uphold our national security.
But there are safeguards, no? I mean,
Mhm.
that's what Senator Grace Poe was pointing out. For example, if a foreign company does want to come in, hindi naman agad-agad magsasign ng deals, right? Even if they've found a local partner, you would have to go through a number of agencies. You would go through Philippine
Right.
Competition Commission, SEC, et cetera, et cetera. So those
That's true.
safeguards are not enough.
Unfortunately, in the face of actors, state and non-state actors, who also have the intention and the capacity to win, even in hurdling such built-in safeguards. They are probably not enough, lalo na dahil hindi lang state mechanisms and institutions ang pinag-uusapan dito, but internet-enabled operations that are capable, have proven to be capable of going through or going over or under even constitutional and legal safeguards and government mandates. So sayang talaga we missed the opportunity
Hmm.
to put in place additional safeguards in this particular bill, especially since nakatayo naman tayo sa matitibay na constitutional grounds at the start.
So let's say theoretically, let's
Mhm.
if they were to take out telco from the
Mhm.
bill, would you then be okay with it? Or
You
because
know,
your primary concern is national security, right? If
through the
we were to take out
telecoms,
the PSU
yes.
telco.
Yes, actually, Regina, now that you asked me about it, that was my bottom line all throughout the hearings and the plenary debates. Kung sana patuloy natin pinoproteksyonan yung ating telecoms industry by maintaining the 60-40 constitutional rule, I could have voted for the bill. It's just that in that most critical aspect, I feel, as I mentioned earlier, we let our guard down. And this is not the time to do that. Given the current state of our foreign relations with China and our own incapacity as of yet to mount a cyber defense against such potential and already in the past attacks.
So talagang telco was the biggest red flag for you. I mean, I
Yes.
think it's valid concern because the our
Mhm.
phones today is not just a phone. It's
That's
everything.
right.
It's our banking. It's our
It
all our
is.
personal data.
It is. And countries like China even have laws on their end
Mm.
requiring, obligating even supposedly private companies of theirs operating in other countries to gather intelligence for them, to feed
Mm.
this back to Beijing. Hindi sila makahindi, Regina, by law, by their intelligence law and their counter-espionage law, obligado sila. So, ang hirap, no? Ang hirap pag ganyan ang katapat na legal infrastructure on one end, whereas
Mm.
through this bill, in terms of the telecoms industry, we have weakened ours.
Right. Senrisa, my last question on this topic.
Mhm.
Where do we go from here? Because it's out of your hands now. Now it goes to
That's right.
BICAM. They will
That's right.
reconcile the versions, and then it
Mhm.
goes up to President Duterte. So for you, what's the base, or rather, not the base case, but rather the best scenario? I mean, if you get reelected next year, is this something that you would continue fighting?
Definitely, Regina. If I'm reelected next year, I would be very glad to be part of a Senate that would continue to exercise its oversight functions, especially in these more critical areas where by law, by then, bukas na ang critical industry ng telecoms in that way to foreign participation, even to not so friendly or hostile foreign participation from countries like China. Talagang kailangan at may kumpiyansa ako patuloy na magbabantay ang Senado on the legislative front and also in terms of exercising our oversight function.
That's great to hear. So, Risa, I wanted to move on to another important topic, which
Mm,
is the family investigation by the Blue
right.
Ribbon Committee. Because
Mm,
it's been 2 weeks and we haven't
yes.
gotten much updates. Uh,
Mm-mm.
my first question is: we know that the Dargani siblings have been detained.
Yes.
Ano nang nangyari since then? Are they cooperating? What's any progress on that?
Unfortunately, Regina, mukhang wala pa ring progress doon. I did make an appeal to each of the Dargani siblings and to Mr. Lincoln Ong at the last hearing na 'di ba wala na silang matatakbuhan wala na silang matataguan. I really appeal to them to turn over to the Blue Ribbon Committee yung matagal na naming hinihinging mga dokumento nila in those mysterious boxes just so we can complete the story. Magkano ba ang cost of goods sold nila, and based on those magkano ba yung pagkakautang pa nila sa gobyerno natin in terms of taxes. I'm afraid that the 10-day or 2-week period of Mohit Dargani and Mr. Ong in the quarantine area of the Pasay City Jail might have lapsed already. And I told them this is the window for you at that time. This is the window for you to, make a show of good faith towards the Blue Ribbon. Para hindi na umusad dun sa mailipat sila, Regina, dun sa common area of the city jail. And I told Ms. Twinkle Dargani, of course, we are concerned for your mental health, but, please prevail upon your brother and Mr. Ong to turn over those documents. Yun na lang, Regina, yung ilan sa kaunti pang kailangang i-tie up na loose
Right.
ends, right, ng Blue Ribbon so that
Hold
we
on.
can finally
Hold on,
complete our
Sen.
already substantive report. Yes.
Wait, hold on, Sen. Do you mean to
Yes.
say they haven't turned over the boxes of documents yet? Because they
To my
promised to do
knowledge,
so at the last
they
hearing,
did.
right?
They did, but to my knowledge, hindi pa rin. So it's really very frustrating for the committee. Tingin ko it doesn't do them any good because even in the BIR's own parallel investigation, siguro naman may mga patsi-patsying mga dokumento na dyan which are pieces of a puzzle that we are slowly over the past months laboriously trying to complete.
Mm,
And then also civil society groups like the Right to Know Right Now Coalition have been able to come up with ballpark estimates of tens of billions of pesos still in tax obligations. Our tax consultant in the hearings, Mr. Mon Abrea, has
mm.
also been able to come up with even larger possible tax obligations based on the pieces of evidence, pieces of documents so far that have surfaced or been presented in the hearing. So, konti na lang ang kailangan gawin ng mga Dargani at Mr. Ong para makumpleto namin ito. Konti sa amin, pero sa kanila, I think it would do a world of good to
Mm.
help put them in, better lights in the eyes, not just of the committee, pero in the eyes of the court, which will eventually receive the cases that will probably be filed based on the committee report.
Sen Risa, what's your read on the matter? Are they hiding something? Are they deliberately withholding information or talagang hindi lang nila alam?
Nako, halos imposible, Regina, na hindi nila alam. They are ranking officers and incorporators of Pharmaly. Their unbelievable obstinacy is making people wonder, ano ba nangyari? Yung mga dokumento ba, nilipat na ba sa ibang lugar? Yung mga dokumento ba, sinira na? 'Di ba? Kasi what is making them so hard-headed about this in a way na hindi rin talaga nakakatulong sa kanila. Nung una, yung stonewalling nila sa tingin namin ay, well, siguro may backer talaga silang malakas at mataas. In the first place, hindi sila maglalakas loob to brazenly sell these overpriced pandemic supplies and think they could get away with it kung hindi sila malapit sa kusina. So, talagang mukhang may mga kasabwat sila sa loob. But now, sila at sila pa lang ang naiipit, no, nadadawit sa big trouble. And here we see in our video, my Senate Minority Leader Sen Frank, Sen Kiko, our colleagues in the majority, our chairman there, Sen Dick, have told them and there, Mr. Young, that they just have to cooperate, because everything so far that has surfaced in the hearings shows na may accountabilities talaga sila. Hindi lang ang
Mm.
DOH, hindi lang ang PSDBM, pati ang formally, pati sa Mr. Yang. Questions remain about the role of the president, of Suzhou Construction and Machinery Group, even of DOTR, Philippine National Railways. But the Darganis in particular and Mr. Ong, they are on the hook right now. And one way that they could make things better for themselves now and in the near future is to finally fully cooperate with the Blue Ribbon.
You mentioned cases that could be filed, it could
Yes.
be filed by DOJ. What
Mhm.
charges do you think this might amount to?
The Our Blue Ribbon chair, Sandik, already indicated that just in the preliminary committee report, we were already prepared to recommend cases to be filed against the Farmally officers and Mr. Yang, involving various laws, the new procurement law, our laws against graft and corruption, even our internal revenue code in terms of tax obligation. So
Mm.
those are not light laws to have violated, Regina, and the
Mm.
cases and the possible prison terms and damages to be paid are also not small change, not small time in terms of time possibly to be served.
So we're looking at multiple charges. Um,
Yes, possibly, Miss Regina.
yeah. So Risa, speaking of rogue actors, do we have
Mhm.
any idea at this point where DBM USEC Lloyd Christopher Lau is he still in hiding? Do you guys
He
know?
is still in hiding. The last we heard from him, humingi pa siya kay Blue Ribbon Chair Sandik na huwag na daw namin i-maintain yung subpoena against him, yung arrest warrant. Ironically for him, that sent us the signal that he is still in the country. No, the Senate Osaa have been looking for him in Davao also, where the Darganis were intercepted, also in Cebu. So, but that appeal of his to Chair Dick was the sign for me that he is still within Philippine territory. Otherwise, he wouldn't bother making that request to the chairman. But the Chair Dick said, magpakita ka muna. Senping said the same thing, magpakita ka muna sa Blue Ribbon. That's the first sign of good faith that he could have done. And then we can decide on any such appeal. But as in the case of the Darganis, his flight or his keeping a distance from the Blue Ribbon is a sign not of good faith, but is a sign really an additional sign to us of his guilt, his accountability in this case.
So he hasn't shown any good faith at all. Hindi siya
No,
nagpakita or
hindi.
anything.
Nung nasa hearing siya, paulit-ulit, ilang beses siyang nagpakita ng kawalan ng respeto, kabastusan sa Blue Ribbon. And now, in his sudden disappearance from the hearing, as if he were still a government official, covered by that also unacceptable memorandum of the president. By
I
the way, hindi na siya USEC. He's a private
That's
citizen now.
right. Yeah.
Obligado rin siya magpakita. His continued absence from the hearings is another sign of bad faith, not good faith.
Yeah, you're right. I should have said former DBM USEC.
Ano?
And I also remember when he was giggling during the
Right.
hearings.
Giggling, arguing, raising his voice. I mean, excuse me, even between fellow government workers, we need to exercise interparliamentary, inter-branch courtesy. At sa pagitan din ng Blue Ribbon at ng mga pribadong mamamayan, tulad niya ngayon, kailangan may ganong mutual respect din. He has really been sorely lacking in that department.
So, Enrisa, if I'm not mistaken, there have been at least 15 hearings on
Yes.
Farmally.
Mhm.
Where do you guys go from here? Because, of course, we are in the thick of the Christmas holiday season. When
And the
January rolls
already,
around,
yeah,
parang everyone will be busy with the election
right,
na. Where do
right.
you guys think you can go from here?
Well, I think we just need to wrap up some more loose ends. Also with Miss Rose Nono Lin, another of the resource person witnesses. With Mr. Michael Yang still, I mean, to his credit, he has still been attending the hearings, pero di pa rin siya completely forthcoming on several important issues. And when we finally adjourn the hearings, Regina, I am very confident that under the leadership of the chair, we will be submitting to the public a very substantive, a very weighty, and an eminently useful committee report moving forward, both in terms of amendments to existing laws, possibly the recommendation to draft and file new laws, and certainly to strengthen the effect of Senate's exercise of its oversight function in our governmental and our societal affairs. And you know, Regina, aside from um, the uh, the upcoming campaign, one thing even closer to home, we are very very busy with the Odette
Mm.
rescue and relief operation. So my office as well is mobilizing resources to send help dun sa mga lugar na nasalanta. We'll send relief goods and medical services as soon as we are able. And Akbayanihan itself, Akbayanihan efforts are ongoing. Fundraising ito na ang pangalan ay Tabang Vismin. So, Regina, your dear viewers, if you could check the official QR code on my Facebook or Twitter account para sa donations via GCash. No? So with Akbayan Party, I really call Akbayan natin ang ating mga kababayan. So, you know, we are completing the formally investigations. We are preparing for the campaign next year, and urgently, pagtulungan po nating lahat mga kababayan, tulungan yung mga kababayan natin sa Mindanao at sa Visayas.
Actually, thank you for bringing that up.
Mm.
Because the devastation, the extent of the damage has been severe. I
Yes,
think we are
grabe.
all a bit surprised. So, Senrisa,
Yes,
apart from checking your Facebook
yes.
page, for the people who do want to donate and send in
Yes.
relief goods, how should they go around it?
Well, in addition to what I've shared, Regina, from Akabayan, from my office, there are many, many streams of donation and participation that have been opened up, especially by civil society and our private sector, which have valiantly, uh, really contributed to the pandemic response, now also to the Odette response. Please, whatever we can donate, however we can volunteer to participate in this relief effort, gawin po natin ito. I mean, what a terrible prospect for Christmas, huh? And the New Year.
Mm,
Of
mm,
course, soon, in a few days, we'll be telling each other a joyful Christmas, a healthy New Year. You know, I'm saying a healthy buhay at hanap buhay. That is so,
mm.
so difficult now for our kababayan on the ground. You know, you mentioned the scale of the devastation, though it is not as terrible yet as what the Yolanda areas experience, but the scope, Regina,
Yeah,
shockingly, is
yeah.
even wider. People on
Mm.
the ground. So yes, everything we can do to help, and thank you to you for talking about this on your show.
That's right.
Let's
So
help.
many
Let's help.
regions got affected,
Grabe.
beginning with Siargao, right, on the eastern
Yes,
seaboard, Bohol,
Latin.
Leyte, Negros
Yes,
Occidental. We were
yes.
seeing pictures over the weekend, and entire communities were flattened.
Grabe. Kinikilabutan ako thinking about it.
Yeah,
Flattened at this time of still the pandemic, of the oncoming Christmas and New Year's Day. So, oh my gosh. Aside from the health recovery and the economic recovery from the pandemic and the recession, now we must really link arms. Kaya nga, akbayan, no? Mag-akbayan tayo. Let's all link arms for the Odette recovery.
fantastic. Thank you, Sanrisa. I do have a little bit of time, so I'm gonna circle back to the Farmally
Yes,
topic, which is so you guys are thinking of there will be a weighty committee report that you're going to be
for
submitting
sure.
in the new
Oh
year.
my.
And
Yes.
itong committee report na to, you don't need, because at the moment you don't have the participation of or the cooperation of the Darganis, Lincoln
Yes.
Ong, Lloyd
Mhm.
Lau. Even
Mhm.
without their participation, you're able to put this committee report together.
Definitely. I am so confident of that. Chair Dick said even our preliminary committee report was already useful, helpful, valuable, lalo na Regina, yung final committee report. So it's really, in fact, something that the Darganis, Mr. Ong, even Mr. Lau could do to help themselves to cooperate better. Mr. Lau still has accountabilities even in a previous posting of his in the housing sector. So wag niyang akalain na he'll get away 100% on these various fronts. Any of us who work or used to work in government, may sagutin talaga kami at darating ang panahon. Whether in the Blue Ribbon Committee report or later on down the line, sasagutin din namin yung aming mga sagutin. So Mr. Lau as well as the siblings and Mr. Ong would do well to show the committee, and hindi lang Blue Ribbon actually, Regina, to show the Filipino people some
Mm.
respect. Kasi ang ating mga kababayan have been following this Blue Ribbon investigation at gusto rin, hindi lang namin, gusto rin nila, gusto nating lahat ng mga totoong sagot sa mga
Mm.
valid na mga tanong na ito.
And then lastly, just very quickly, Senrisa, what's happening to the charge that was leveled against you?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, right. Formally sued me for sedition.
Hmm.
Teka muna, sedition is a crime against government. The last time I looked formally is not government. It's a small, unknown, undercapitalized company that benefited from favoritism rather than yung mga Pilipinong kumpanya natin na may track record, mas mura ang mga supplies na inoffer sa gobyerno at mga Pilipinong kumpanya that should have been supported to stay open and operating at a higher capacity, mga Pilipinong empleyado nila na mas dapat sinuportahan, hindi mawalan ng trabaho at hanap buhay. And then for formally to sue me for sedition, sedition is a crime against government. It involves calling on the people to publicly and tumultuously rise against government. Kailan naging sedition yung ng accountability for the misuse of public funds? Kailan naging sedition na siguruhin na sa gitna ng pandemya, our limited pandemic funds be used for the life, health, and jobs and livelihood of the people? So I remain fully prepared to answer those charges in any court.
Fantastic. That's all the time we have for the day. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator
Thanks
Risa
so much,
Hontiveros,
Regina.
and
Stay
advance
healthy.
Merry Christmas to you. And that was today's agenda. Keep it here on Signal TV channels 8 and 250 for the latest news and updates. I'm Regina Lay, sitting in for Cito Beltran. We are One News.